I think it's okay to say today that Dylan Raiola is your starter. I really believe that if somebody just came out on this coaching staff and said, hey, Dylan Raiola is going to be the starter next August, like that wouldn't come as a shock to me. And I think it's okay saying that. But for you, are you on like the wait and see until spring mode like Ravi's at?
Well, you have to ask yourself, who else would it be? Because Nebraska's not in a hurry to go back to Heinrich Haarberg, who did some nice things in his 8 games as a starter, and I think was hamstrung by the fact that Nebraska was down receivers and running backs during the entirety of his run as a starting QB. But, that's not the guy that they talk to recruits in this class about as the future leader of the offense. I mean, we know that Nebraska had to completely change what it did offensively, in part because of those injuries, but also because of Haarberg's skill set. So if he's the other option, then yeah, clearly you're looking at Raiola to be the guy who will start. I mean, Danny Kaelin is going to need some time. He's more of a projection, a developmental quarterback. He doesn't have the same kind of size. I mean, Dylan is coming in at 220, 225 pounds. Like, he's built like a starting quarterback in the Big Ten right now, which is rare to find for a true freshman. So, I don't think you should do that with a true freshman. I don't think you should ever say 9 months before he starts, hey, this guy is the starter, because you want him to have every piece of motivation. They don't know what makes him tick at this point. I mean, we've seen him play high school and have success doing that, but it's a totally different animal that he's got to tackle now. So you want him to have every piece of motivation that he can to come in and use these. He needs these months ahead to turn himself into the player that Nebraska hopes he can be by the end of August next year. So there's not a whole lot of sense in just declaring him the starter. You can know that. And I think inside the coaches' minds in the Nebraska football headquarters, they're fully preparing for him to be the guy. Otherwise, he doesn't fly in from Georgia last night for a basketball game when the Huskers are hosting 2 transfer portal wide receivers. I mean, you don't do that with your backup quarterback. He's the guy that I think everyone expects is going to be the starter in 24, but declaring him that right now, I don't know what the benefit there is.
All right, I'll come back to planet Earth a little bit. I'll give Ravi the win.
Right. I just need him to take a single practice snap first. Like, just give me a practice snap before we name him a starter, please.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it in August. I think it'll be clear when they practice in the spring, and whatever amount of practice that we get to see, or former players get to see, who then tell us what their observations are, or at the actual spring game. I mean, you'll know. I mean, you'll see who's taking the reps with the ones, and if he's healthy, it's going to be Dylan.
Mitch, speaking of that quarterback room real quick, do you expect them to bring in, maybe not competition for Dylan, but maybe like a veteran presence after the spring, just for like a depth purposes at all? Because as you mentioned, if Dylan isn't the guy, there's really not a ton of options you love behind that. You've got a guy that I think they want to redshirt in Danny Kaelin, a guy who'd have to run probably a totally different offense in Heinrich Haarberg, and then a couple walk-ons. Do you think they want to bring in someone else just for depth purposes?
Yeah, for the sake of safety. I mean, we've seen it at Nebraska year after year after year. The quarterbacks have a hard time staying healthy, and Nebraska's had to go to a backup, I believe, every year since 2015. So to think that it's going to be different in 24 and you're never going to need someone is probably short-sighted. I mean, I know they're hopeful that they can go with one quarterback and he starts 13 games and finishes, in bowl season, and you never have to worry about the backup except in, spot duty when a game's out of hand. But I don't know how realistic that is today. So whatever you can do to help your depth, I think, would be welcome. It's going to take a unique player from the portal. Not a lot of guys are going to want to come in knowing the situation that Nebraska's grooming a 5-star legacy, who's seen as a prodigy to take things over. I don't think that the majority of the quarterbacks in the portal are up for that. That you go in the portal because you're looking to, you're looking to start especially if you're an older guy. And there are quarterbacks who have played 1 or 2 years of college who are looking to come in and grow and be developed. But the kind of player that I think Nebraska would look for in the portal is probably an older guy. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a young guy to come in because nobody has more eligibility left than a true freshman. So, I think there every year there's 1 or 2 guys like that who pop into the portal, and Nebraska's going to have to identify that. Maybe they've already identified that player, but they're going to have to act and they're going to have to make a match. I don't think it's a lock, like it's a done deal, because you just don't know if you're going to make that work. But ideally, yeah, you want to have somebody with some experience who can be a mentor for him, who can help be a leader in that room and be supportive. And then also there, in case he sprains his ankle in week 1.